Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny Aiello, and this is With Love, Jenny, a podcast where we meet ourselves right in the heart of our vulnerability and authenticity. In this sacred space where it's just you and I dive into real life, rich with wisdom and opportunities for deep healing. I explore what it means to truly connect to ourselves, to each other, and to something much greater than us all. In each podcast, I like to meet life right where it touches us most, in our tenderness, in our truth, in our struggles and our strength. So wherever you are on your journey, or whatever it is that you're carrying, no matter how light or heavy, just know I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin today's episode. Welcome to another episode of With Love, Jenny. Today, my co-host Kristen and I are going to discuss what it takes to leave behind regret and push through limiting beliefs and fear. Sometimes life presents us with opportunities to experience something that is going to teach us just that. And we're going to break it down into 7 very important reminders that we need when we have those opportunities for breakthrough growth, right? And things that you can tuck in your back pocket when you face your next challenge. So you not only have a visual that I'm going to share with you, but you will have a formula to follow that will give you your own mountaintop experience when you conquer that next challenge. So a few episodes ago, we talked about this manifestation that happened where I got to participate with a group of people on a trip of a lifetime to Peru and to the sacred grounds of Machu Picchu. And that in and of itself was just a mountaintop experience, right? I couldn't believe that I was even there in the first place. But something happened on that trip. Actually, many things happened, but we're only going to talk about this one today that took it to another level. So, as you know, if you listened to that episode, and if you didn't, let me give you the backstory. It was a dream that I had. It was something that seeing the sacred ruins of Machu Picchu in a picture, it was like my soul was called to be there. And I had no idea how or where or when that would happen. And I don't remember the timeline, but within a couple of years, suddenly I found myself going to Machu Picchu, right? And so fast forward, we're on this trip. Now, I had literally about 2 months before I would be going, from the time I knew I would be going to the time the trip actually happened. And in those 2 months, I was busy doing life and still wondering and trying to find a way to weasel out of it because it sort of scared me. It was like I was almost afraid to allow myself to have the gift of this trip. So we get there and the whole trip was amazing. And at the end of the 11 days, the last stop was the ruins of Machu Picchu. And when we got there, it was beautiful. And it literally felt like I stepped into the view. The very spot that someone took this picture, the first time I saw it was what I saw. And I stepped into it. And it was surreal. It was this beautiful thing. We got there early because we were going to watch the sunrise from the ruins. It was gorgeous. But the second day, there was going to be a hike. And everyone in my group was like, Jenny, you have to do this. You have to. And I'm like, they had been on the bus talking about how much they had trained for 6 months prior to this trip. People were walking and hiking and training so they would not miss any of the experiences that we were going to have. I, on the other hand, dropped into this trip totally unprepared and untrained for any physical challenges that would present themselves, not even knowing that they would. But here we were, and they said, we're going to hike Huayna Picchu, okay? And you have to go with us, which meant getting up at 3:30 in the morning, ready for this very early hike. And everything in me wanted to say, nah, I'll pass. I'm going to relax at the hotel. I'm going to get a massage. I had that option. But there was something that felt as though that was why I was supposed to go. It wasn't just to see the ruins. It was something calling me. And maybe that calling was this opportunity to stand on top of Huayna Picchu. Okay. So let me tell you about Huayna Picchu hike. The hike itself is referred to the Machu Picchu Stairs of Death because it's a very, very steep incline and the paths are like carved by the ancient Incas. They're very narrow. It's uneven. It's a little treacherous. It requires a pretty good level of fitness and agility, which honestly I didn't have. On top of that, when you get there, you're already at an elevation of about 7,800 feet above sea level. So people get oxygen sickness when they first arrive. And now you're physically exerting yourself in a high altitude. But we go up more than 1,000 feet of a steep incline to get to the top of Huayna Picchu. So there at the top, you're at 8,800 feet above sea level. And I didn't know if I'd ever been that high up in the air before, but I am a mountain girl and I love mountains. And so everything in me said, you will not make it. You will not make it. And my soul said, we have to go. Okay. And so I went and I began the climb. And I had a group of people and they had trained for this hike. So they went fast and other people not in our group were like passing me up. Now, in some areas of this climb, there was no passing and there would be people lined up behind me because I would be going so careful and so slowly up. And it does like almost switchbacks, right? You're going and you get to a place and people could go around you. And I just stood and then I'd take the next incline. So it was like these stairways that just kept switching back and back. And you're climbing the face of this mountain that looks flat in the picture. If you ever look at a picture of the sacred ruins and you see two mountains in the background, one short, one tall, the short one is the Machu Picchu and the tall one is Huayna Picchu. So you can see the face of it that we're climbing. It's not a mountain trail. It's a cliff nail biting trail. It's the stairs of death. So just to give you a picture, I'm not exaggerating. So I began climbing and I kept climbing and I kept climbing and there would be another switchback and another switchback. And I could tell I was having trouble breathing and I would have to stop and catch my breath. And sometimes I would let myself look at the view. Sometimes that felt scary because there were ropes drilled into the side of the mountain so you could hold a rope on that side. But on the other side, there's no guardrail. You just look down and see a river like 500 feet below. And so I kept thinking, I don't know why I'm not afraid, but I wasn't. Was I tired and exhausted a lot? Yeah, I got tired and I got exhausted doing that. But at one point, I hit my limit and I was like, I have no idea where I am. What if I'm only 25% of the way up? It would make sense to just say, you know what, Jenny, you can come back after you've trained and do this. If I had only gone a quarter of the way up the mountain, the way I felt, I was like, I'll never make it. And those doubts began to creep in. And I would climb another stairway and another stairway and another switchback. And I'm like, what if I'm like not even 25%? What if I'm 50%? Can I do this? I started negotiating with whether or not I would quit. And I kept going and kept going. By this time, people had already gone up, had the mountaintop experience, and they were starting to come back down. So I'm meeting people coming back down, not the people in our party, but other people. So I asked, am I almost there? And they would just laugh and shake their heads like, keep going, just keep going. It's worth it. And I would walk and hike and climb and crawl and stop to breathe and say, could you tell me, like, am I almost there? And they're like, keep going. It's worth it. It's worth it. Just keep going. And at some point, I was really struggling to breathe and my legs were getting weak and my body was feeling it, right? And I stopped him and I said, look, everybody says it's worth it, but I don't know if I can make it. And I just need someone to tell me how many more flights of stairs, of these primitive stairs on the side of this mountain, do I have to climb to get there? And this one man looked at me and he said, look, if you go down now, you will always wonder what you missed. Will you have regret if you look at the picture of these ruins and see the mountain you didn't climb? Like, you will have so much regret if you stop now that I got to tell you, if I have to carry you up there, I would carry you because it's worth it. So keep going. I can't tell you where you're at on the climb. Keep going. And I felt that igniting something in me. I dug deeper than I've ever dug before on a physical level because he was right. I knew I came all this way. And actually, the miracle of that trip had so many thumbprints of God on it. It was like I was meant to be there. I was meant to climb that mountain. And if everything in the universe conspired to get me on the side of that mountain, almost to the top, and it was now up to me to push through and make it, then by golly, like, I better do it, right? So I dug deeper and I kept climbing. Now something really interesting happened. I started to see that there was an opening, because when you're flat against the mountain, you can't see the forest for the trees, literally. You can't tell where you are. But I get to this last one and I could see that it was coming to an opening and I thought I was there. I was like, finally, I finally did it. I was already starting the party of celebration, so proud of myself. And when I got there, I wasn't there. I was in the opening. It was a clearing, but it was this huge top of the mountain. I can't call it a boulder or a rock because it was literally the side of the mountain, but it was rock. And it literally was on a semi-steep incline that you literally had to crawl like Spider-Man. You had to get on all four and crawl because that was the safest way to this place that was a pile of rocks, right? And I couldn't see people. I was like, I'm not even sure what is happening. I get to that place and the person in our party said, now you go through this. And it's literally, the rocks are piled in a way. Technically, it was not a cave, but it felt like a cave to me because you went under the rocks at the top of the mountain and you went through what they call is like a birth canal. And it wasn't pitch black in there, but you were in some tight places. You had to, crunch down and squat and waddle and crawl through that final birth canal. And on the other side was our guide, Eddie. If you heard the other episode, you know who I'm talking about. And there he is with sunlight behind him. He had this beautiful face smiling at me, and he reaches his hand and said, Jenny, you made it. And he pulls me out of the birth canal cave and up to the top with the rest of my friends from the Machu Picchu experience. And I had arrived. And then we all gathered on the pinnacle of this mountain for our photo of those that climbed the mountain and made it. And that was my mountaintop moment. I got to be a part of other people who were like trained athletes for this. And I can't imagine since then how many times I would have regretted. That man was so right to give me that advice, because now I look at it and I see that Huayna Picchu mountain in the picture and I smile at it like I was on top of that mountain. And I can draw from that when I'm in my own challenge. I can draw from that experience. I can say it felt so good. That's what I want to attach to, not the struggle or not the inconvenience of all the things that we have to experience getting to a goal or a dream or an outcome that we want, right? It's not always smooth sailing. I think sometimes we think, and I teach this, when we're in alignment, there's no struggle, right? But sometimes with a challenge, the struggle is our growth. So we do have it. It's just that we have to keep attached to what's on the other side of that struggle in order not to quit to give up, to let ourselves down. So, Kristen, what are your thoughts around that story? And then we'll talk about the takeaways of those 7. There were 7 steps that I think, these 7 takeaways that we all need when we're approaching a challenge of some sort.
I just love that you didn't give up.
Me too.
A lot of people might give up. And I've been there before where you have to push through your thoughts.
Right.
Physically get up a mountain. Like, I've done that. I had to walk 4 miles up a mountain, and we got to the top, and it was so worth it. But going back down, it was raining and slippery and horrible, and my knees hurt. But it was so worth it. Like, you have to get past that physical and get into the spiritual, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but once you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, that view, my soul needed that.
Yes. And what you said is very profound, is that you get past our physical limitations. And this is the power of the human spirit, right? Like, that is the spiritual part of us that says, my soul says, we'll do it. I can't. My physical body was quitting. It was shutting down. But my spirit, and to me, powers that be, said, you've gone as far as you can. We'll get you the rest of the way. Keep going. And it is something more than a physical view. That was tremendous. The view from the top of the mountains are always the reason people go, right? Like, oh my gosh, that view is stunning and breathtaking, right? But something bigger, you experience something more than just the view.
It's almost like you opened a door that you didn't know you could open, and you're so dang proud of yourself. Like, you did something so out of your norm.
Yes, that you had more in you than you ever imagined.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, I did that. And you're kind of in disbelief. It's almost like having a baby. Like, did that really happen? Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It felt nothing short of a miracle for me to be on top of that mountain. It did. And I didn't get there alone, right? I had the encouragement of my teammates. I had the encouragement and belief of other people. I had guides along the way that I would stop and ask them, and they said just the right thing to keep me going. I had all kinds of factors, that were getting me up that mountain, because left to my own, my limiting beliefs would have told me turn around and go back. And I had to have more to get to the top.
It's like a huge exercise of letting go of control.
Yeah.
And
let me tell you, when you're on a 8,800 foot above sea level cliff, you want control, right? You want some level of control there. It is terrifying. So let's talk about these 7 takeaways that I broke it down into. What did it take for me to get up there? And the very first one that I would say, what I took away from Machu Picchu, having had that experience, it's not necessarily something I had consciously gone into that experience with. I came off that mountain and wrote down these 7 things. The first is to commit. I went through a leadership training prior to this, and one of the things the way they said it was, have you closed the back door? Because if we leave a back door open, we can always go back. But if you close and lock that back door, it's saying nowhere to go but forward. I'm not going backwards on this. I can't. I don't have an escape route. I don't have a plan B. The only option is to get there, right? And that mindset is the very first thing that you want to do anytime you're approaching a challenge or an obstacle. Unless you have very good evidence that you can't do it, you can. And if you have that evidence that you can't, look at it and see if it's real. Because I guess the way that I counteract that belief, like, well, there's pretty good evidence, like my knee isn't strong, and my knee could blow out, or there's some physical evidence that I can't do this. And unless you have that, you will give yourself, those are your back doors, right? And when I want to give myself a back door, I will pull up a YouTube video of a Paralympian because they have every reason not to do some of the amazing things those athletes do. And they show me what it looks like to be committed. So the first of those takeaways is to commit. It's the most important part. My soul committed to that mountain. Even though when I got in it and it got hard, my human side wanted to quit. My soul knew it had to do that. I felt it in every part of me. And that's what you want. You want to get that feeling as I'm so committed to my health. I'm so committed to this relationship. It doesn't matter what it is. When you commit, you see it through the hardships. You see it through the obstacles. You get past all that because you're committed.
I wanted to chime in. I think if people had to describe me in one word, like my really good friends, is that I'm committed. Like, it's just a skill that I have. Like, if I say I'm going to give up dairy, I've given it up. Like, if I say I'm going to give up alcohol, I'm done. I'm not going back. But a lot of people don't have that. So I guess my question is, because I know a lot of people that can backslide, like that this seems so foreign to them, like they like to where to even start because they know they're going to open the back door. So is there any suggestions you could give them that, like, because another thing for me is like a lot of the things that I commit to, my motivation is my health. And I know that I'm doing this and I'm not going to feel sick if I do this. But a lot of people don't have a motivation. They know that they want to do something, but they also know that they don't have to do something. So how do they commit?
Right. One of the things that I do is ask myself, why am I committing to it in the first place? And some people will say, well, I'm going to commit to giving up smoking cigarettes, right? Like I know I will feel better and I will breathe better and I will be taking care of my health if I quit smoking. And they can commit, but it's one of the hardest things to do. For those of you out there that did, congratulations, because I'm not a smoker, but they say that it is one of the hardest things physically because there's a physical dependency on nicotine. And so you have to go through the challenge. The mountain is getting through the habit, breaking the habit of it, breaking the physical dependency of it, experiencing the withdrawal that your brain goes through when it comes off of nicotine. All of those are painful experiences. They're difficult experiences that you have to feel in order to get to the other side. So those situations are kind of I can't breathe, my legs are weak, I don't know if I can do it moment, right? And they have to push on because the goal is to feel better at the end. So for me, I am not disciplined like you are. When I commit to something, I am very quick to negotiate. I'm very quick to bail on myself and go, this isn't worth it, So that's the thing that I would recommend is that everyone take a step back and say, what's the why? And if your commitment to that why isn't stronger than the challenges you're going to face, then you will always bail. For you, Kristen, it wasn't about not having dairy. I'm committed to not having dairy because for whatever reason, I don't want to have dairy. You were committed to not having dairy because your discomfort of having it was greater than the discomfort of not having it and feeling, the benefit of health and well-being for you. So we have to look at our why. The why is what you're committing to, not the obstacles and the challenges you're going to face, but you've got to have a reason to want it.
Well, I keep thinking, I know a couple people that have told me that they know that they should be gluten-free. Like they know it. They know that when they do it, they feel so much better, but they would rather suffer and eat the real gluten chocolate cake. And I try to understand those people because I'm like, I would rather not suffer and just stay gluten-free because I know that it's better for my body.
Right. So people that have celiac are miserable when it's life-threatening for them, right? And sometimes it takes that big of a feedback loop to say, I don't want to live every day suffering, but everyone has a tolerance for suffering. I mean, we've all been conditioned to suffer in some form here as humans, right? We come in and we know what it means to go, okay, I'm suffering from allergies. I'm, like whatever is at hand that day, we know how to push through a lot. Some people have a tolerance for more than others. So the suffering isn't that great. If they're not truly sick from the gluten, then the pain of giving it up is more than the pain of having it. It's always a ratio. So they might feel better, but they don't feel horrible. And so there's not enough there to push them past that. Does that answer the question? It's always,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always looking at pain is our greatest motivator.
Right.
The words that man spoke to me on the mountain actually were tapping into the pain I would feel for the rest of my life, probably, because who knows if I'd ever get back to climb that mountain, and I was only going to be getting older and more out of shape, probably. I was like, I'm going to go home and see the mountain I didn't climb. Every time I think of Machu Picchu or look at a picture of Machu Picchu, I will see the mountain where I let myself down. And the pain of that for me was greater than the pain of pushing through my fear and weariness on that mountain.
So it's almost like pain is inevitable. Which way are you going to choose? There's still a teacher on either side.
Oh, pain is a great teacher. Yes. And if I had come home with that, if I didn't climb that mountain, it could be my greatest teacher to say, here's another mountain for you. Are you going to make it to the top? Or are you going to do Huayna Picchu again? And I imagine it would have still motivated me to push through, just like it does now, because I had the good experience of pushing through. I could have still used that experience to say, even though I didn't do that and I regret it, I don't want that experience, so I'm going to push through. So either way, Huayna Picchu gave me the experience I needed. And had I given up, it still would have been teaching me.
Yeah. I would tell people one tidbit that helps me when I do, I like to challenge myself. I just gave up social media for 30 days and I actually wrote out a permission slip to myself and signed it. And I keep thinking, I signed that. If I can't keep a promise to myself, then who am I?
Right.
I truly want to do this for several reasons. If I didn't keep that promise to myself, am I saying I'm not worthy?
Yeah.
That's my question to you, Jenny.
Yeah, it is. It's a way of letting ourselves down. It's a way of, it's an abandonment, right? It's like it's self-abandonment. When if I make a commitment to someone else, I'm really good at keeping my commitments. I will show up for everyone else, but I'm very quick not to show up for myself. And that is a lot, and probably a whole nother episode of how come that happens for me. But I've just recently come into the learning and awareness of why that is, but it's familiar for me. I'll just say that much. So if you're someone who goes, well, I joined the gym, I quit going, I went on this diet and I quit, I started writing a book and then I stopped, and everything I do, I never complete it. I don't want you to go into shame over that or think that for some reason that makes you unworthy or feeling, anything, because none of that's true. It's just, we all do things for a good reason. And when you get down underneath it to go, why is it hard for me to keep those commitments to myself? You start to go into the healing process. And it's important to go in with grace and compassion and not judgment and criticism of yourself, because those are also a form of self-abandonment. So honor the process, learn all of these mountains in your life, these mountainous challenges in your life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a work goal, whether it's a test that you need to pass. They're calling you up because you can. You just have to figure out why you feel you can't. And that's always it's the mortar between these milestone moments, right? It's the thing that holds those lessons in place. So let's move to that second takeaway, which is preparation. You do want to face a challenge and set yourself up for success. Let people know, okay, I'm going to be doing this. I'm not going to be available for that. For example, people that are on a weight loss program have friends that are expecting you to show up for brunch or, Friendship Friday, and we all go out and have pizza and beer and party. You may have to let people know, I can't do that for the next 3 months because I'm really going to focus on cleaning up my diet and my health and get myself detoxed from all that. And so we're going to have to find another way to get together, or I'll miss you, but I can't be there. Like, you have to set yourself up to succeed and not let yourself go into situations that prevent you from being prepared. And
I think too, like when you're afraid to even do things because of what people will think, you will be amazed. Because when I do tell people what I'm doing, because I want them to be aware and not think I'm avoiding something or whatever the case may be, they stop for a second and are like, oh, maybe I should do that. I kind of need that. Like, you'll be surprised. It's not like they're going to be, well, some people might be mad, like come have beer and pizza with me, but some people are like, oh yeah, maybe I need to do that too.
right. Anytime we're showing people and communicating self-care or self-challenges, this is me committed to my own personal growth. This is me committed to my health. This is me committed to my relationships. Whatever that looks like, when they see that that's your why, it makes them think, what's mine? And some people will absolutely try to help you sabotage it because they don't want evidence they could and are choosing not to. And you have to be, that's them, that's on them. That has nothing to do with you. So keeping yourself set up for success also means boundaries around the dream busters, the people that are going to try to tell you that you can't. Why are you doing that? You don't need that. And there are people that will. Most of our friends and most of the people are going to encourage us. I would like to think that, but there could be a few that don't, and don't take it on. Don't get mad at them. Don't be offended by them. That's them. Cue up our next episode. You'll want to listen to it if you have that experience. But whatever it is, set yourself up, set aside time, set aside routine, set up the boundaries to give yourself room to achieve what it is you're getting ready to achieve.
And I also would like to add to give room for grace and compassion for yourself, because you are going to get irritated. There's going to be moments where you do want to give up. And I guess prepare yourself to remember the why.
Yeah, always keep that why in front of you in some form, because I had that image that I first saw before I knew I was even going to go to Machu Picchu. I knew I loved that. And I kept thinking that picture in my head when I was climbing it, like, I'm going to look at that picture and I'm going to have regret. So I do want you to mentally and then physically and energetically prepare for the journey. I went in totally unprepared, and it was a little bit harder for that reason. But if you set yourself up for success, you are more likely to have success. The third takeaway, every once in a while, you do need to stop and breathe. That means pace yourself. In, whatever it is you're doing, if you can step away, just step off the path. Give yourself, I used to, because I'm not disciplined, I used to be very rigid with my pace. Like, if I stop, I will probably never start again. If I stop, if I don't keep the streak going, if I took a day off to breathe, then I'll take 10 off. I will then say, I quit. Therefore, I might as well give up on this. And so I don't have a lot of discipline to pause and keep going. It's a mindset. So but it's necessary. Someone said you can run. Someone could, a runner, which I always admire runners. I'm not a runner, but they could run 1,000 miles, but they don't do it without stopping to catch their breath and rest and let their body recover. Over time, they can run, 20 marathons, but they don't run them nonstop. And so taking time to stop and catch your breath, that was one of the things the mountain taught me, because the air was thin. I mean, that oxygen deprivation is a big thing. And everyone had to kind of acclimate and stop and give yourself time to catch your breath and restore, your rhythmic breathing before going up another climb. And I use that now when I stop, to not call it stop and quit, but stop and restore and go again. It doesn't have to be a physical endeavor. It can be, writing a training that I'm writing, and I get to where I'm in the rabbit hole and I'm finding my head hurting and I'm like, what am I even doing? And I have to get up from my computer and go outside and take a quick walk, clear my head, come back, and then it flows really easily. So it's not necessarily climbing the mountain. It's facing any challenge. You've got to pace yourself through that challenge. Take time to stop and breathe. Fourth takeaway is to ask for help, even if it means give me some encouragement right now, give me some direction, or I don't know where I'm at or what I need next. I'm feeling like I want to quit. What do I do? Ask other people to help you and get that help. It's really an important part.
I can tell you in a couple of things that I've committed to, I've had the fortune of doing it with groups. So we hold each other accountable. And when somebody texts and says that they completed whatever we said we were going to do that day, it's like, okay, I'm doing it. Even if you didn't have the energy to do it that day, you're like, no, this is motivating me to keep doing this.
Right. And belonging in an accountability group is huge, especially if you're someone like me, that it's easier for me to not show up for me than to not show up for someone else. And for me, there was one person in our party, only one out of, I think there were 10 of us that went up the mountain. There was one who was still behind me. And I didn't know if she had turned around and gone back, but I was like, I'm going to keep going, because I felt like my energy was going to help her keep going. But there were 8 other people waiting for me at the top and they were ahead of me. And I was just kept going, like, they're up there, they're waiting. I want to be a part of them. I don't want them to be up there wondering if I turned around and, they'll be up there waiting for me and find out that I bailed. That would have been hard too. So asking for help and encouragement, building in help and encouragement through an accountability group is real important it doesn't matter how big or how small these things are. It's just ask for help, and then asking for help in the spiritual realm, whether it's angels, whether it's, an ancestral or a loved one who's not in the earthly plane anymore. It's like, what, give me what I need. Maybe it's even an idol that it's someone that you idolized, like, this amazing athlete who did amazing feats, that's no longer here. It's like, draw from their energy and go, you overcame stuff. Help me figure out how to overcome this. So to me, it's all hands on deck when you get to that breaking point where you want to quit. So always remember to ask for help. The fifth takeaway is perspective. I love the tool of perspective in so many different arenas. You've already heard us talk about it in other podcasts, but getting a perspective on where you are on the path. If you've ever walked a labyrinth, that was my first experience of how much I want to know where I am and how much farther I have to go. And when you're walking a large labyrinth, it's impossible to know where you're at. It's twists and turns that go in close to the center, and all of a sudden you're on the farthest from the center, and you have no idea, like, when are you ever going to arrive? And it taught me that I have to get my perspective on where I am with regard to my why, not where I am with regard to the journey. And that why is what I'm focused on. And getting a perspective about where I am on the journey allows me to be present to where I am on the journey. And it's where, okay, right now I don't know how far I am from the bottom. I don't know how close I am to the top, but this is where I have to dig deep and I have to find resources within me to keep going because the top was the focus. And it's where I draw faith. It's where I get present. I get impeccable clarity when I stop to get a perspective of what's happening. The perspective tells me I'm at a place where doubt is creeping in. I'm on the path where disbelief is creeping in. I'm on the path where temptation to retreat back is coming to the forefront. And I have to gain a perspective of how will I feel if I quit right now? And if I found out I was 2 flights of stairs away from the top when I decided I couldn't go because I thought I was way far away from the top, that perspective would have been a bitter pill to swallow. And, in that moment, you may not be able to get a clear perspective of where you are in regard to the goal, but you absolutely can get a clear perspective for what is it that you're giving up and what is it that you're believing that's going to sabotage that goal. So get your perspective back. That's when I start to feel that tunnel vision of, oh gosh, it's, the world's closing in on me. I have to step aside, get my perspective of why I'm doing what I'm doing. What is it that I have to deal with right in this moment to clear the way to keep going and draw from that. The 6th one is to expect setbacks, right? There are going to be setbacks in any challenge. They aren't there to stop you. They're there to teach you. And it's real important to change your mindset around the obstacles or the setbacks. If you're working out in the gym and you get hurt or injured, it's a setback. It's not a back door. It doesn't mean you weren't meant to work out. It means, okay, I pushed too hard. I got to let my body recover and get back on track.
Or maybe too, it's a redirection from God saying, like, because your ego keeps getting in the way, saying, oh no, I need to go this way. And God's like, nope, let's make this little turn. It'll help you better.
Right. You do have to use that discernment, right? Because if our ego is attached and it can lead to injury. If our ego is the one saying, keep going, and your knee has a tendon pulled, and to keep going was going to be, a major injury that would make it possibly you could fall off the mountaintop, then you have to stop and say, maybe that was what that was the lesson of the mountain, and you have to redirect, which is different than quitting. So discernment is really, really important when you have the setbacks, because it's so easy to attach. If I hit a setback, I will always try to convert that into a message of this wasn't for me. So I have to actually do the opposite of maybe it's teaching me how to sharpen the saw and how to get stronger and how to navigate differently and not give up. So you have to really get present to what that setback looks like, because when I got to the spider crawl part, I thought I was going to be done. And then I had now I have to crawl like Spider-Man on this very steep granite or whatever that rock was, and then I had to go through a cave. Are you kidding? I'm terrified of caves. I'll climb a mountain, but I don't like underground caves. And so now I actually have to be under these rocks. What if there's an earthquake and they fall on me? Like, all these very, very terrifying fears happened in that 8-foot little birth canal that I had to go through at the top. And that felt like a setback. It felt like, and then it felt like a trap. Like, well, I'm this close. I have to do it right now. I don't even have a choice because I'm too close to the top. I have to experience one more thing. I have to do that, really? And it's like, yeah, and you can. So be mentally and physically equipped to push past any of the detours or the unexpected twists that come along your path, and use your discernment about what they are teaching you. And make good, wise choices. And I always ask for guidance in those moments as well. Last one, very last one, number 7, bask in the absolute glory that comes when you succeed. I have to tell you that adrenaline rush, the feeling of that mountaintop experience, it's literally in my DNA now. I can close my eyes right now and I feel the rush of excitement to know that I conquered that mountain against all odds. It makes me feel unstoppable, right? It gives me such a rush. And I can look at pictures of Machu Picchu and smile at that mountain. And that feeling comes rushing back. And I can say, that's my mountain. I stood on top of its highest peak and did something I never imagined I could do. And that feeling makes losing 10 pounds seem easy, even though it's not for me. But whatever that challenge is, I can use that mountaintop experience. And it's important for you to go back and say, what are your mountaintop experiences? You didn't have to go to Machu Picchu and experience the literal mountaintop experience. We all have those moments where we did something we never dreamed we could do. And you have to push through fear. You have to push through limiting beliefs. You have to allow yourself out to venture way out of your comfort zone if you're going to have that mountaintop experience, and trust yourself to actually get there.
I keep hearing in my head, I am so worth my why. Like, post it anywhere, you're going to see it every day. I am so worth my why. And really feel that feeling of why you're worth your why. Like, feel it in your bones. So when you read it, it's such a deeper thing than just reading a statement. It's
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think we might come up with that in a quote on something in the blessing room, over in the blessing room, because we're going to have some journal prompts for you. We're going to continue this discussion about what these 7 tools can mean and what they can do for you in life, because we all deserve to live life to the fullest. And we are all worth our why. We are worth that. But to do that, we have to know it means that we will experience everything. We will experience hardship, setbacks, failure, success, and we will experience celebrations and achievement. But if we just live life on the sidelines where we play it safe, we don't get those adrenaline highs of the mountaintop, and we don't get the chance to grow and to heal and to expand who we are as a being in this world. Everyone here has leadership in them. Everyone here has the power to influence someone else. Everyone here is more than you think you are.
I love that. And expand who you are as a being, because so many people put themselves in boxes.
Yes. Yes. We tuck ourselves in a box where we're safe and we hide until game over. And then what happens? We missed so much when we don't put ourselves into a growth curve now and then. You don't have to stay there or live there, but every once in a while say, I'm going to go do something that's a little scary for me. And I'm going to use these tools, these 7 steps, to know that 1, I'm going to commit, 2, I'm going to face some hardships and setbacks, but 3, I know they're there to teach me and I can overcome them. And 4, I'm going to have helpers along the way and accountability along the way. And I want the mountaintop experience. And I'm worth that. It's
almost like you kind of have to have some experience in your life to know, even if it's a small glimpse of what it's like to feel expansive. Because that's kind of like a motivation. So after college, we did a road trip across America, a 2-lane road trip. It was amazing. And I think now as an adult looking back, the biggest thing was realizing that I could feel expansive, driving through middle America and not seeing anything for miles. And that feeling was just amazing. I was like, I want more of this. Now, at the time, I didn't know I wanted more of it internally, but it was something my heart was calling to.
I think when we get I don't want to date either one of us, but I think we do get to a point in our life where we do look at those things like you just did. Like, I didn't know at the time it meant internally wanting that space. Like, we don't have that awareness yet. But when we start to wake up and realize, and that's what I want to talk about in the blessing room, is looking back at what were those times when I realized I was putting myself in a situation to teach me, but I wasn't yet awake and aware enough to get what it was I needed, but my soul did. We lived in the Southwest, and when we go back into this beautiful land of enchantment in New Mexico, and Bob and I will get in the car, and you can see forever, and you see the mountains along the horizon, but this vast open space, and the sky is so big. It's just so much bigger. I don't know why. You just get out there and you can breathe and you can see forever. And that expansiveness is what our soul resonates with. That's what our soul, where it lives. It's came from that space, right? Like it's like we're in this dense body, like that's all there is, and it's not. And so that goes into perspective. When you're there in that big open space, you can breathe and realize I'm so much more. What if I could fill that space with love? What if I could fill that vastness with compassion and forgiveness and harmony and tranquility and serenity and all the wonderful things we crave? Like, what if I filled that space with joy and to know I'm capable of it? We are so, set free when you realize that. You're set free to go live at such a higher level than ever in our little boxes, So as we wrap up today's episode, we want to invite you to go over to Patreon and find us in the Blessing Room. The Blessing Room is where we dive a little bit deeper into some of these topics. And for example, today, Kristen and I are going to talk about, one, what do you do if you're committed to something so much so that you won't give it up and it's actually bad for you? Because we do have commitments to bad habits. And two, what if you are committed to something so much so that you ignore the signs that you need to pivot? Because sometimes circumstances present themselves. And for me, sometimes there's a redirect that happens, like, okay, this was good, but now it's not good, and we have to do something different. And how do you know the difference between quitting and redirecting your energy flow? So we're going to talk about that in the Blessing Room. And we have, of course, some journal prompts, and that I am worth my why sacred promise form for you to fill out when you decide that you want to get committed. So we're excited. We'll see you over in the Blessing Room, and we'll be discussing some of that stuff. We'll wrap our episode up with those thoughts of what is in you that wants more. What is in you that is craving something more? And what does your path look like to let that be your why? If you would think about something that you would love to experience, love to do, love to accomplish, what's stopping you? Who is stopping you in your head? And what are you willing to do to make the first level commitment to that dream, that goal, that accomplishment, that achievement, whatever it is? What is it that you need to commit to first? Maybe it's a small step. Maybe you're just committed to one of the switchback steps on the mountain. Right now, I just want to climb one thing.
And how much are you willing to let the divine be involved?
Yes. And not wrestle with your ego. Your ego won't get you there. Sometimes it does, actually. Sometimes we do by sheer force, and we let our ego drive. But that's usually the part that we're learning, is that makes it hard. The ego often will cause more suffering than our surrender ever could. So yes, you've got to have, your ego works for you. you don't serve it. And that's the key. I put my ego as a co-pilot. It's like my mentor told me, your ego needs to have something to do. And if you don't give it something to do, then it takes over. And it usually is a reckless driver. So tell it, this is what you're in charge of, but make room for the divine to be a part of that journey.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast from Tara Brach this morning, and she said, your ego is the servant, not the master. It's exactly what you said.
Yes, exactly. So take that to heart and start letting yourself be more, because you deserve all the treasures that come with living life to the fullest. And whatever you do, whatever is your mountain, whatever is your quest, pursue it with love. Take care. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found a spark of wisdom to carry with you, and maybe even a deeper invitation to heal and grow and transform through your own beautiful story. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone who could use encouragement. And if so, I hope you will share it with them. If you'd like to learn more about working with me or attending one of my healing retreats, coaching programs, and other offerings, you can visit my website at jennyaiello.com or email me directly at jenny@jaiello.com. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If today's episode touched you, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with someone who might need it, or just reach out and let me know how it landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm building something special here. Real stories, real life, real connection. One episode, one heart, and one story at a time. As always, with love. Oh, and this is the legal message, but mostly a message from my heart. And I just need to share this with you right now. Please know this podcast is offered solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you find yourself triggered due to anything that was shared in this podcast, please seek professional help. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for mental health services. While I am a professional life coach, I am not a psychotherapist, nor am I a mental health clinician. So if you are struggling emotionally, please seek help, because you matter, you are important, and most of all, you are worthy of doing this work, the work that leads you to a better and healthier place. Okay? All right. Thank you. And please always make enough time to take care of yourself, and do so with love.